Welcome to the Solo Monk Show. This is Solo Monk. Thank you for listening. When I close my eyes while listening to music, my brain arranges the information in a few different ways. I see the keyboard, guitar, bass, drum kit in the room they're playing in, or, if overproduced, the lack of room. Sometimes I can hear what type of mic they're using, how far the mic is from the horn of the speaker or the rim of the drum. I see a scrolling grid representing the counted measures in recording. Find the one and figure it out from there. The scrolling grid is covered with lines and riffs, and I make notations and variations of melodic motifs and grooves. Sometimes I get abstract visuals of how the music makes me feel. Memories are colored, evolving textured geometrical shapes, at times resembling things in nature, brief before devolving to nothing, reforming, never resettling before nothing again. Mostly I see colors, a scrolling grid, or a guitar fretboard with hands playing the chords or angular riffs. Not claiming any goofy Facebook meme disorder, I'm a visual artist. Music can trigger ideas against the backdrop of my eyelids. I've written and recorded hundreds of songs, played hundreds of shows in 45 different states. The brain has a wild tangential web of connections to what I hear. I've played these notes millions of times in thousands of scenarios. Chords, tones, timbre, groove, pocket, colors, positive and negative composition space. I'm self-taught and tend to break down bigger concepts into familiar patterns. I use a lot of the elements of art composition for creating, performing, and listening to music critically. Searching for line, shape, form, space, value, color, and texture. A lot of it begins as deconstructed bits of information. It can take a minute to step back from and internalize the full composition. Finding and listening to the new music excited me more than any other thing in the world till I learned how to play an instrument. The next plateau was playing music in a band. I no longer had to search for what I wanted to hear. I could create something I genuinely enjoyed. It was one of the few spaces where I felt like it was okay for my performance to be unleashed. I'm 6'5" and I read a lot. I've always had to spend a lot of energy making others not feel small around me. In music, though, I could excel and see what my real limitations were. No walking on eggshells, no tiptoeing through the house. No having to let the middle to upper middle class people attempt their frail illusions of exceptional gated merit first. No gating my mind or my curiosity tender to tyrannical, storytelling vibes to hedonic shredfest. Music's pay gate is low if you commit yourself to the craft. I toured the country with $200 guitar and a solid state amp. And if taken seriously, it's deep magic. You can shred any piece of functional equipment if you build the chops. The magic is mostly in your hands, in your mind, and your voice. It's awe-inspiring what we can do with music. Unlimited potential for expression and collaboration. Still, mostly, we make cyclical genre records. Out of that magic, repeat digestible patterns of the Geist. My creativity felt challenged and consumed by the full process of band mode the first 6 years. Rehearsing, booking shows, promoting shows, playing shows, blocking out time in the studio, recording a record in a few days, and releasing the records via CD, tape, digital download, CDR, or vinyl, and figuring out what we did wrong in the following year when we looked back. To do it correctly required a full body, mind, ideology, assertion of self. It was impossible to do without daily and weekly investments of time and creativity. The fractured self became one in an attempt to make it work. My body and this tangential cluster of memories and processes felt like one thing. I felt like a supremely focused meat suit, the most human this human has ever reached. If we could have ever made any money, I think we could have done a lot of cooler stuff. Creating ethical commodities is tough. Mixing creativity and business is tougher when the models on display are awful. I didn't want to create a micro pattern of extraction and empty symbology to sell trinkets at the end of a global supply chain. The existential woes of that, financial doom and plunder every year, and trying to make rent resolves whatever foundation you began with after a decade of plugging the wash-away dam. There's no mental health support in the independent music industry. No government protections for shady business practices. A lot of dreams fold over mental or physical health problems and rent. The ritual magic of music suffers. At that point, I really believed I was here to create music. Through my own fictional divinations or cosmic arrangement, my brain, hands, and body were made to create abstractions through musical performance and audio engineering. It felt like breathing. No writer's block, every free moment cooking up ideas, riffs, or consuming stranger new music to add to the new synthesis. I'm still this way on the days when my energy syncs with my ambition. After a decade of playing with other musicians, no one liked the music or promoting it as much as they liked the shows. It became a boring, uncreative trudge. No writing in the room together, no rehearsing together, no hanging out without an instrument in hand and feedback in the air to cover communication. Played sporadic shows, played unrehearsed or canceled because of work schedules. The sporadic shows got worse and worse. There's no reason for anyone to come out. No musical pocket, no intent, no plans, no reason to care. Everything becomes another thing. Intentions devolve, the reactionary mind ends up creating the hegemonic state that anchored its perspective of identity. The mind and body has needs, and our motives become hidden from ourselves with our reactionary identities occupied and acted out, but seldom identified. We're already exhausted from trying so goddamn hard in every other avenue of our life to simply survive capitalism, another day, another week, another month, another year. Once you know it's not fun, you can't unknow. Projects have shelf lives. Topical art can die with the moment, and especially emotionally charged performances based in rage and dissatisfaction at ridiculous volumes. Hard to yell with a conscience when there's no group kenosis or gospel to prophesize aside from buy merch. Same speech, different city. Without hope or curiosity, we can't kickstart much else. Sacrament written with youth and an infantile mind is hard to preach as a balding grown man still searching for that space between the stage show, the studio, and the home. I've never learned what home was, but the way I listen to music is different now. The way that I play live is different now. The way I record records is different now. A shift in music comprehension happened, and I can't go back. Trying to recreate anything feels like exact burning mansion of empty symbols that I exited when I began recording my own records, my own work in 2004. I exited the church for a reason. I didn't take art classes outside of school. When I did in school, I never did my classwork, and I just worked on projects for scholarships or state competitions. I won a few, but made D's in art class. I had no access to academia because I lacked etiquette and family resources. The art world is built on classism and suffering. The adults heavily focused on obedience over skill growth or opportunities. Exiting poverty through the arts is all kinds of goofy interior narratives. The illusion of individual genius, to self-destruction, develop a link, or become the demigorg, or hijack the cosmic id for a few years till it mangles our bodies and minds. Creating symbols for pop culture and music is the only lane for the poor to enter the Geist. It's such a dirty, filthy muck to move through. Once you've been there for a while, you pray for dry land, and hopefully when you get to dry land, the dream will be gone. I can feel a sense of deep fear and terror and nostalgia. The way folks bark in police culture is that same illusion of control the small town preacher simulates over dancing and wizard books. Conservative ideology of culture and the goofy baby brain concept of it was better when I felt and performed better in my dying meat suit. I must recreate or I and that feeling disappear. Began this journey to transcend, but after jogging on the hedonic treadmill for 15 years, I realized there was always nowhere to go and nothing to see. The most beautiful things in the world were already in my hands. I would always be me wherever I went, and there was no one to prove that to. And honestly, it's pretty futile to ever try to fully explain yourself. One tethering and reimagining ourselves from moment to moment, day to day, week to month, year to decade. Nothing can solve that. We can be here now for a while to admire the beauty and apply our own rituals of comfort. Accepting all that made me a better listener and artist. More importantly, a better human. This is precious. Now is enough. That's the way music made me feel alone in a room. That's the way it made me feel when it clicked in a well-rehearsed band. Realizing a breakthrough synthesis of reality. Simple dumbasses in a room layering vibrations as colors over syncopated attacks. Pocket to compel the body and mind to engage deep social magic, dipping into what's always just below the surface of everything, a unified field of energy. I wanted to live inside a pocket of music after I stopped drinking and stopped playing in bands, fully commit again to the ritualized experience of music, creating, learning, listening, and experimenting. Why do I love music? You have to be completely present to do it well. Having that quick access to occupying the command center of the meat suit helps with creating an inventory, and it helps me understand myself. Understand life, all the colors and modalities of harmonic expression. At the end of me, I'd like to know I felt free out of kindness and curiosity and not ignorance. When reality goes back to how it was before I was born, it's mildly comforting I did more than make other folks money through endless labor and ritualized consumption. I possessed a bit of my own time, form, and function. What if that was mine to claim? I'd feel dumb to speculate, as I've never had a will free of fear of its absence. The fear is always there. After I left the idea of bands behind, thought about how ridiculous it was to put all your creative endeavors on one project with 4 or 5 equally obstructive if unmotivated project managers. If you're going to do that, you should spend your energy organizing in your community, not feeding egos and arrested development. With one life, it takes a lot of energy to band together individualistic egos as a loose ideological project to build and seed their own second-order social profiles. Some want out to the wage slave life and are willing to make any noise to travel and build an artist avatar online. Some simply like making noise in general. Some have no thesis to begin with and aren't searching. Music and culture pulls around it. Music and the culture that pulls around it can be whatever it needs to be at this stage in capitalism. Each individual is buried in their own illusions. The market always is willing to reflect our desires. We have to understand and engage each project as an opportunity to learn and expand our toolbox. We don't know what we need in there. It's good to give every attempt your full undivided attention. And it takes time to create, share, and collaborate. Other creatives are a must at some point for basic learning and later on for studio work and co-production work, but to get right with the musical gods, you have to woodshed, learn how to listen without intent, whittle without motive. Not everyone engages music in the same way. We don't experience it the same as listeners, creators, or performers. But the basics come down to how big is your toolbox, and do you possess the tools to access shared symbols of value? Always treat music like a lover who you're inspired to touch, applying every technique to slow each moment to its basic truth and become full body thankful, entrenched in our unified field of energy. Our infantile dreams of the musician and artist are so small compared to reality. Finite precious life spent building a craft of ritualized simulated ascension. Dirt cheap sacrament for communal experiences to build a shared language. We should apply ourselves daily and love our peers, never baby our infantile illusions or seek their petty adulation. We are decorating time with vibrations. That's enough. We navigate waves, tones, and timbres for emotional manipulation and commiseration. Time is made up. Our aesthetics are made up. But still the bodies move and the vibrations become a part of a shared language. It's beautiful. We don't need capitalist dreams to access it. Thank you for listening.